There's a lot you can learn from Out of the Past.
Welcome, everybody, to Mark County Historical Society's Out of the Past. I'm Jim, and I'm here, as always, with Lenny. And Lenny, this is our last episode of 2024, and I think we've had a pretty good year. What do you think?
We've had a lot of things happening, a lot of interviews, a lot of visitors. I don't know, let's talk about the annual meeting, first of all.
That was a great event, I thought.
Well, we had a new venue. We were at the Best Western.
Yep.
And the presenter, Trey Vasello.
Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
She gave a tremendous presentation, very interesting. In the museum, we had a number of different interviews and presentations. Pat Gary gave a presentation, a PowerPoint, and a presentation on his book about gratitude, the power of gratitude.
Yep.
What other ones, Jim? Can you think off the top of your head?
Well, we had that really good one with Dan Kerberg about the Lutke Slough controversy. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, I thought.
Yeah, we had good attendance in both of those. A lot of people remember that from the 70s.
Yep.
The Lutke Slough controversy. Herb Breckinger on the Vietnam Veterans Wall.
Yeah.
Just recently.
Yeah, that was really informative, interesting. Just, how they built it and what it meant and everything. I thought that was really cool.
And the Draper brothers, Draper Foods. They had a lot of interesting things, a lot of things that people remember from back in the day, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and all the things that they were doing in terms of their food and beverage business.
Yeah. Of course, we've had a lot of school tours coming through this year.
A lot of school tours, PowerPoint presentations. You've done a lot of off-site presentations.
Yeah,
Tell us about those. Where do you go?
We go to different assisted living places around the county. I go to Ingleside every month, for example, and always fun to take our presentations out to the people. And
I bet a lot of them remember some of those things.
Yep. Remember them. They've got their stories of the people they remember or the places or events. So, yeah, always good to show our stuff to new people and just see what their memories are.
And I know they like them because I get calls, when is Jim available for the next presentation?
Sure. Yeah.
So
and we got through kind of a big issue this summer as well. So
we had some flooding in the museum as a result of Gatorade bottles stuck in one of the drains from the roof.
Yeah.
Consequently, we had quite a bit of water damage, water in the elevator pit, but we have it mostly resolved thanks to good work by the plumbers, Dave Plumbing, and some others who were very helpful. So
very helpful.
We're kind of getting it reorganized and do some carpeting and painting and.
Yeah, and that's led to some other opportunities to reorganize, refresh some things too. So.
Right. And of course the interactive room. That's been something we worked on for actually a number of years now, but tell us where we're at exactly with that now, Jim.
Yeah, well, we've got a great table that's been put in by Fox Lake Furniture. We've got a really neat video vault that's been put in, a nice big screen.
How does that work?
People can come in and bring up our videos that we've done, our interviews, our PowerPoints, different things like that. They can sit and have a nice big screen, sit at the table and watch those.
So they'll be able to see us.
Yeah, so which is either fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at that. A really nice place out of Cedar Rapids that started doing museum displays.
So they can see interviews we've done.
Yes.
PowerPoints,
interviews,
veterans
anything
interviews.
we've shot here. Yeah, veterans interviews.
Sure.
So a lot of good stuff. It's a really cool looking display too. That place out of Cedar Rapids really designed that well.
Did a nice job.
Yeah, it's very unique and fun.
Well, what'd you bring along today?
Oh, well, we've got a few things to look at here that have come in recently. This one I thought was really neat. Do you remember the Al Zinter Chorale?
Al Zinter was a teacher, choir director, Fairmont Public Schools, and they had the Al Zinter Chorale. They performed all over the area.
Sure.
Fairmont, down in Iowa, many different places. Very popular group.
And this is sort of like a template. They put the information in this box here of where they're going to perform. So kind of a neat advertising piece. Along somewhat of the same lines, this is really cool. This is, from the best that we can tell, a advertiser's sample piece. So trying to look at different fonts to use for like Fairmont letter jackets, different things like that. So imagine a salesman sample would bring that around and say, well, this is the kind of stuff we can do for your school. And yeah, fun with Fairmont. And believe 1947, there's the year as best as I can tell. And lastly, for today, well, I need to remember City Looks.
City Looks in the mall.
Yeah, I remember getting some of my first haircuts there. Got a really t-shirt with the logo there.
Sure.
So yeah, that was interesting place. Like I said, remember as far as back as I can remember, that's where I got my first haircuts. So
yeah, back in the 80s for sure. Maybe the 70s, but that general era.
Yeah. So, well, something else that we've done recently too is we interviewed Brooke Wohlrabe from the Sentinel, Lenny.
We did, yes. Brooke's done a terrific job getting started as the publisher editor of the Sentinel.
Yeah.
She's got to be one of the youngest ones, if not in the state, in the country, as far as being in that position in a local newspaper.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, pretty unique.
Right. Sentinel, of course, has a very vivid and colorful history going back to Frank Day in 1874.
Yeah.
So I know they just had their 150th celebration recently.
Wow, that's incredible.
So Brooke put together a nice presentation in the paper. So
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting interview and did a really good job, and she's doing a good job. And hats off to the Sentinel for giving her that chance.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, why don't we take a look?
Sounds good. Welcome, Brooke. Brooke is the publisher editor of the Sentinel. Let's start with telling us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up? College? Anything you want to share?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am born and raised in Fairmont. I went to grade school at St. Paul's Lutheran. Fairmont High School, graduated in 2011. And then I went off to the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, where I studied communication and journalism.
What prompted your interest in journalism?
As a student, I, really enjoyed my English classes. I was a big reader, liked writing, but I knew I didn't want to teach. So, in looking at different majors, journalism seemed like the natural option for me if I wanted to write. And yes, that's what I chose.
Makes sense. What was your first job then, or where did you start after you got out of college?
So I had a strong interest in magazine writing. That's what I thought I would do. So after I graduated in 2015, I got an internship with a company called N2 Publishing. So I wrote, some articles for those magazines and did that and some other odd jobs for about 2 years up in the Twin Cities area. And then a cousin of mine from Fairmont actually sent me an ad in the Sentinel saying they were hiring for a reporter. And I initially was like, I don't want to move back home. I hadn't thought about newspaper writing, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, I can get some good experience, live with my parents for free.
Yeah, there you go.
So I started with the Sentinel in May 2017.
Okay, how long did that last?
I was with the Sentinel through 2020, and then I left full-time for about a year and a half, and I worked at Care 11. I went up to the cities and switched to TV news for a little bit.
That must have been interesting doing that.
It was. I often have people ask me now if I ever, they'll say like the Sentinel is a stepping stone or something. And it's like, well, I did have, so to say, a bigger opportunity that I tried. And I learned a lot doing that, but I really missed telling local stories in my community. So I returned to the Sentinel in, I think, June 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And
kind of in the same capacity as you were before, or?
Yep. Still working as a reporter, although that time our editor had left, so I'd taken on some of those responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And then just earlier this year in February, I became publisher.
Sure, and how did that all kind of transpire? It seemed like when we visited once you were kind of looking at a different job.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always liked this field. It's kind of presents its own challenges.
Mhm.
So I did, once again, leave the Sentinel for a very brief time at the end of last year. And then the Sentinel's former publisher retired, which I wasn't anticipating. And then the Sentinel's owned by a bigger company, Ogden Newspapers. Someone from there contacted me and asked if I wanted to come back in the publisher capacity. So I've had a couple of people say to me, "Oh, that must have been your dream job," and I'm like, "Well, I never really expected to find myself doing it." But
Quite a compliment, though.
yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's been an adjustment, but it's good.
Well, I would think you're probably one of the youngest editor publishers in the state, or
Well, I think the Sentinel's founder, Frank Day, was, I think, in his early 20s when he... But
back in 1874. Yeah.
Aside from him, though, I think I might be the youngest. I know I'm the first female publisher at the Sentinel, which is, cool.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the challenges you faced since you became top dog at Sentinel?
Well, I think some of the challenges in general we face is, it kind of depends on how you look at it. Of course, technology has greatly impacted our industry, but it's not all a negative thing. I mean, just over the past few decades, advances in, photography and computer design, like we don't physically lay out the paper anymore like we used to, very tedious process. That's all done online on a computer. So I think a lot of times people talk about that in a negative way, talk about the size of the staff that the Sentinel used to have. But we can operate with fewer people now. So it's not necessarily a negative. Look at when you go to the grocery store.
Sure.
You scan your own groceries now.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things change as a result.
We don't have
of
to print our own
technology.
newspapers, though, do we?
Yeah, no, that's still done.
Okay.
And the thing is too, even though like some of those operations changed, it's still like we still physically go to a basketball game, take pictures, cover what happens. We go to the city council meetings, we're physically there. A lot of the way that we cover things is the same. It's just the operation of putting out the paper is different. But it's not necessarily a negative. It's just how it is.
Sure. Well, I know you haven't been there very long as editor-publisher, but is there anything that you could share that you feel is an accomplishment since you've been there, or what you're kind of looking forward to try to change or make improvements?
Well, I think just the fact that we're still printing 150 years later is amazing. You hear all the time about, especially small town newspapers closing, even big papers, closing. Some papers in the state, like the Duluth News Tribune, I think prints physical paper one day a week, and then they have online daily. But we still print 5 days a week, physical paper, and I think that's really something worth celebrating. Yeah.
Do you know other communities about the size of Fairmont? Do most of them have a daily newspaper, or are we maybe one of the only ones that do in the state?
I know there's less than 10 in the state. I think it's somewhere around 7 daily. If you print 5 or more days a week, you're considered a daily. So actually 3 of them are our own company. The New Ulm Journal and the Marshall Independent are part of our company, and they also print 5 days a week.
What about staffing? Is it difficult to get people to come to Fairmont to work in the newspaper, or are there a lot of graduates in journalism?
There's some. We anytime we post a job, the range that we get is pretty. Our newest sports reporter came from Montana.
Oh,
He came to Fairmont for the job. The sports editor at our paper in Marshall is from Boston, and he's been there, several years. So people will travel for newspaper jobs. I'm not really sure why, but we're grateful for it.
So what do you see as the future for the Sentinel?
I certainly believe that the Sentinel will continue to have a presence in Fairmont and Martin County. What that will look like years from now, I'm not sure.
Sure.
I think there's definitely a good amount of people out there that appreciate the physical paper, but like I said earlier, with changes in technology, I mean, we have, we're reaching more people now than we used to, because we don't just have the printed paper. We're online with our digital version. We have a website. We have a Facebook page. Like, there's multiple ways to reach people now. So I don't see the Sentinel ever going away entirely.
Oh, good.
Not on my watch.
Well, I think we need that. Brooke, do you have any future goals that you have in mind for the Sentinel, or anything you've thought about?
Yeah, increase our coverage as much as we can. Obviously, that's, I want the paper to be chock full of local stories and ads every single day. That's the goal. It's a fast-paced industry, and there's a lot going around Martin County. So just, working with my staff to make sure we're covering everything that's happening.
Okay, good. Well, I say too that the fact that the Sentinel is still present in Martin County, and we have all the Sentinels here in the museum. It's a significant part of the history of our county, and it's important throughout the state, throughout the country, to have newspapers. So,
and I think when I think about that daily in our coverage, I think about the stuff that we're covering. I say this isn't just important for tomorrow's readers. This is going to be important years to come. I mean, we're constantly recording history in what we're doing, so I think that's really important.
Documenting daily history in the community and the county.
Yep.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Jim, what do you got here?
Well, yeah, on that note, when I heard Brooke was coming, I pulled out just some interesting things, here.
Storm of the century.
Yeah, January 13th, 1975. You have all the different happenings, people getting snowed in together, snowmobiles having to transport nurses and people around town.
You know what else happened at that time?
What's that?
The Vikings played the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl, and they lost.
Yeah, go figure, right?
Because of that storm, our TV interception was not real good.
Sure, it's a silver lining, probably.
TV reception, not interception.
And on the warmer side of things here, I found this 1975 ad for the Martin County Fair. You have different things like a tug-of-war, a gospel choir, and then down here, sort of almost in the footnotes, Styx and Cheap Trick playing at the Martin County Fair. I thought that was interesting that they're just sort of a little footnote for the biggest little fair in the state.
Yeah.
And then with that, one of the big headlines coming out wasn't about the bands. It was a chicken escaped from its pen at the fair and had a little moment of short-lived freedom. So that's what made the big headline there, not Styx or Cheap Trick, but the short-lived freedom of the chickens. So, what an amazing historical record of our community.
Yeah, excellent.
We keep these, we have some of these in the Sentinel office too, and we display them in a window every day. I flip it, and just the amount of people that stop by. We're right next to El Agave, which is good for us because we get all their foot traffic, and people will just stop, and, I'll see them take out their phone and take a picture and talk about different things, so people really appreciate it. And
well, people are interested in history, especially local people and local history. So.
Yep.
Well, Brooke, while you're still here, I thought I'd take the occasion to show you and Lenny some interesting Sentinel articles I found. We talked about the storm of the century. Here we've got a blizzard from 1924. Lots of things happening. The drifts snowed in Fairmont. Roads were blocked. You had farmers from 8 miles out coming in to seek refuge. The mail stopped, so it kind of violated the old snow, sleet, rain oath. Actually stopped the mail. But then also we had high drama in the party world. Interlochen Park outbid Fox Lake and Hans Park to win the County Farmers Party. So that was described as the big event of 1925. So
hopefully not in the winter.
yeah, no kidding. And then we talked about the Sentinel as a historical record. I thought this was a really neat juxtaposition. Here we've got an article where the Sentinel's mascot, Zeke the Toad, was brought 3 girlfriend toads by a Sentinel reader. So that's just hilarious, and it talks about how he's happy again now that he's got some love in his life. And on the other side of the page, we've got this article here about Hitler firing one of his members of his staff. We're about 8 or 9 months off of the invasion of Poland, and who knew what the world was going to bring, but just such an interesting contrast between this article about Zeke the Toad and the impending World War. So, just fun things I've come across in the last few days.
Brooke, do you ever get people calling at the Sentinel asking about things from the newspapers in the past?
Yeah, we get quite a few calls of people looking for, I'm trying to find a story on a baseball game in the 1960s, and I always direct them to you because all of the Sentinels ever are here. We keep about 3 years worth in our office.
3 years worth, okay.
And I come down here too, there's definitely relevant stuff happening right now in the city and county that I need to go back and reference myself.
Sure.
Specifically right now, the Justice Center that the county is working on, going back into when the current one was built and the work they've done there. I rely on the Sentinel too.
Sure.
So, and it's amazing, like us here reading this now, to think what people will be reading about 50 years from now.
Brooke, one last question. What do you see about the writing styles or the way people convey what the stories are about from years ago compared to today?
Well, we still use AP style in our office, but I do think the way that people talk is different, so that comes across in the way we write. I'm still a stickler, though. I don't like my reporters using slang. The way people talk.
Right.
I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah,
it's
that's good.
Yeah, we don't alter quotes, but for clarity, I'll change that to going to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just the way some of the stories from the past are worded, it just, you can tell you're reading something from maybe 50, 75 years ago compared to just the language and the approach they used. So
That's true.
Well, thank you, Brooke. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. And best of luck to you and the Sentinel as time goes on.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're back. Jim, that was a great interview. She had a lot of very interesting information. And done a great job with the Sentinel so far, being really new in that position, so I have to give her credit for that. You were looking at some of the newspapers. What more can you tell us about that, as far as if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'd like to see what you were looking at?
Oh, absolutely. We've got the Sentinel hardbound going back to the 1870s. We've got many of them digitized going up into the 2020s. So anybody's welcome to come down and page through, or we can help you search through if you're looking for something specific.
So they're digitized, which means what? They can go on the computer in the museum then?
Yep. We've got a new digital, well, not new in the last couple of years, but a digital archive where people can search by keyword. So if you're looking for a sporting event or a birthday or something going back, we can definitely narrow it down, if not find it for people.
So put somebody's name in, they could do that?
Yep.
Or a store or a location?
Store, event, whatever it is. Should be able to find something or at least get closer. And then there's always just the, kind of like we did with Brooke, just the enjoyment of paging through and finding what's on different pages from, throughout the years as well. So, and we have a lot of course, we have the Sentinel. We've got many of the photo presses, Martin County Star, a lot of the other newspapers too from around the county as well. So,
and some of the newspapers that no longer exist.
Yeah. So those are very important resource, very fun to look through.
Okay.
So we want to thank Brooke again. Thank you for allowing us to interview you. Thank you all at home or wherever you're at for watching. We've had a great 2024. Hope you have as well. We'll see you in 2025 with more episodes of Out of the Past.
There's a lot you can learn from Out of the Past.